Welcome you. We're jumping straight into a really crucial topic today on the deep dive. Mental health stigma. Think about those moments when you or someone you know might have hesitated to really speak openly about their emotional or mental well-being. That reluctance. Well, it often points to the underlying issue of stigma, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack for you using some really insightful material we've gathered.
Exactly. The sources define mental health stigma as those, negative attitudes and discriminatory behaviors directed at individuals facing mental health challenges, not just some abstract idea. Consider the hesitation someone might feel before suggesting a friend seek therapy, or perhaps even your own internal debate about discussing feelings of anxiety. Those are tangible examples of stigma at work.
Right. And our goal in this deep dive is to really dissect this stigma. We want to understand where these negative attitudes take root, the real damage they inflict on individuals and communities, and most importantly, what practical steps can actually be taken to dismantle them. The material we've been looking at highlights a powerful statistic. Nearly 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health issue during their lifetime.
1 in 4? That's huge.
It is. It's a staggering number, underscoring that this isn't some isolated problem. It touches all parts of our society, very likely including your own life or someone close to you.
And what's particularly striking in the source material is the comparison drawn between how we discuss physical health and how we approach mental health. If someone talks about, say, a physical injury like a sprained ankle, there's usually an outpouring of support and understanding.
Yeah, totally. You ask how they're doing, offer help.
Exactly. We asked about the recovery, offer assistance. But when someone mentions struggling with low mood or, overwhelming stress, the conversation often becomes hushed, even avoided sometimes.
That's true.
That difference in response, that's a key area we'll be exploring today.
Okay, so let's really dig into what we mean by mental health stigma. The sources clearly define it as that negative attitude or discrimination against people with mental health issues. Sounds straightforward, maybe, but it plays out in so many subtle and sometimes, blatant ways in our daily lives.
It truly does. And the examples highlighted in the material really bring this into sharp focus for you. Think about that hesitation to seek therapy, driven by the worry of being judged by friends, family, or colleagues.
Yeah.
That's the weight of internalized stigma, that fear of how others will perceive you. Or consider the dismissive comment, just snap out of it, often directed at someone experiencing depression.
Oh, that one makes me cringe.
Right. That phrase, though it might seem casual to some, reveals a profound lack of understanding and empathy that's external stigma in action. It's like telling someone with a broken leg to just, walk it off.
Yeah, it completely misses the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
And a really critical point from the sources is that this stigma keeps people suffering in silence when they should be seeking help. That's the truly damaging consequence, isn't it?
It absolutely is. This fear of judgment, this feeling of shame, it acts as a powerful barrier, preventing individuals from accessing the very support that could be, life-changing for them.
And it's so important to keep that nearly 1 in 4 statistic in mind, like you said.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes that mental health challenges are a very common part of the human experience, not some rare or shameful personal failing. Yeah. When you put that commonality next to the reluctance to seek help because of stigma, you start to grasp the sheer scale of the unmet need.
Yeah, the gap is enormous.
Which leads us directly back to that core idea presented in the sources. Mental health is just as important as physical health. It feels like such a fundamental truth, yet the way our society often treats these two integral aspects of our overall well-being is often so dramatically different. We readily discuss a physical ailment, compare notes on treatments, recovery times, but conversations around mental health struggles often remain confined to whispers, if they happen at all.
And if we connect this to a broader societal perspective, you can see how this kind of artificial separation of mind and body has historically contributed to the very foundation of mental health stigma. If we don't truly view mental well-being as being on par with physical health, it becomes easier to dismiss or stigmatize those who are struggling with emotional or psychological challenges. It just doesn't get the same weight.
So let's explore the origins of this stigma then. The material we've looked at points to a long and complex history of misunderstandings surrounding mental health stretching back centuries. It wasn't always understood through a scientific or medical lens, was it?
Absolutely not. Historically, as the sources detail, individuals experiencing mental health conditions were often mischaracterized, sometimes even dehumanized. They were labeled with terms like crazy or dangerous.
Right, labels born out of fear.
Exactly. Fear and a lack of accurate understanding. And unfortunately, those labels have proven to be incredibly persistent in our collective consciousness.
And it's not just historical misconceptions that perpetuate stigma, is it? The sources also highlight the ongoing influence of media, deeply ingrained cultural beliefs, and even the attitudes within our own families. It really seems to be a multifaceted issue with roots in various aspects of our society.
It is. It's woven into the fabric in many ways. Consider the casual way language is often used, as the sources point out words like psycho or lunatic finding their way into everyday conversation.
Yeah, people throwing around without thinking.
Right. Even when used without actual malice, these words carry the historical baggage of those harmful mischaracterizations and contribute to a negative overall perception of mental health conditions. Language matters.
And the material also touches on the portrayal of mental illness in movies and television, which often tends towards the sensational and the extreme, right? Depicting individuals struggling with mental health as inherently unstable or violent. That kind of representation can create a really skewed and fear-based image in the minds of the public. Think about how those vivid, often negative portrayals might disproportionately shape our perceptions, even if they represent a tiny fraction of reality.
This brings up an important point about narrative, doesn't it? When the dominant stories we see and hear around mental illness are those of crisis and danger, it reinforces the idea that these individuals are somehow fundamentally other.
Right, someone to be feared.
And to be feared rather than fellow human beings who are in need of support and understanding.
But as the sources so clearly state, and this is really important, people with mental health conditions are not weak or broken. They are individuals facing challenges needing understanding and support. It's such a simple yet incredibly powerful shift in perspective, isn't it?
It is profoundly important for you, for everyone listening, to really take that statement to heart. Experiencing a mental health challenge is not a reflection of personal failing or a lack of willpower. These are health conditions, just like any physical ailment, and they deserve the same level of compassion and, crucially, access to appropriate care.
Now let's delve into the very real-world consequences of this pervasive stigma. The material we've examined doesn't shy away from the serious impact it has on individuals and on society as a whole.
No, it doesn't. And what's particularly telling is how directly stigma acts as a major barrier to people seeking help. As the sources emphasize, the fear of judgment, of being labeled or discriminated against, it literally prevents individuals from reaching out for support.
Yeah.
And this initial reluctance can unfortunately lead to their mental health struggles becoming more severe and more deeply entrenched over time. It just compounds the problem.
And beyond simply preventing people from getting the help they need, the sources also discuss how stigma fuels feelings of profound isolation and shame. Imagine carrying the weight of a mental health condition while also feeling like you have to hide it from the world to avoid negative repercussions. That's an immense burden to bear.
Absolutely.
And it can undoubtedly put a significant strain on personal relationships and even negatively impact someone's career if they fear disclosure, fear being seen differently.
Definitely. And the statistics cited from the World Health Organization in the material is quite stark, really drives this home. Approximately 2/3, 2 out of 3 individuals experiencing a mental health condition never seek professional help.
2/3. Wow.
Yeah. And it's because of that potent combination of fear, embarrassment, and the very real possibility of discrimination. That's a massive number of people who could significantly benefit from support, but are being prevented from accessing it by the widespread nature of stigma.
And the sources pose a really thought-provoking question, one that kind of stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
What if people refuse to get treatment for physical illnesses like diabetes or heart disease simply because they were afraid of being judged?
Right.
It really throws the absurdity of the situation into sharp relief, doesn't it? We wouldn't expect someone with a physical illness to suffer in silence due to shame. So why do we often treat mental health so differently? It makes no sense when you frame it like that.
Exactly. And if we look at this from a broader public health standpoint, you can see how stigma not only profoundly harms individuals on a personal level, but also places a significant burden on society as a whole. Untreated mental health conditions can have far-reaching consequences, affecting everything from individual productivity and personal relationships to overall community well-being. It's not just a personal issue.
So the crucial question then, as the sources turn to, is what can we actually do about this? How can we actively work to dismantle this deeply ingrained stigma? The material offers some really concrete and actionable steps that we as listeners and members of society can consider.
And what's encouraging is that the solutions presented in the sources aren't just abstract ideals, but rather practical and tangible ways that you can make a positive difference in your own life and in your interactions with those around you. The very first step highlighted is the importance of simply talking openly about mental health.
Just talking.
Just talking. Normalizing these conversations, bringing them into the light, is absolutely key to eroding the silence and shame upon which stigma thrives.
Absolutely. The more we openly discuss mental health as a normal part of life, the less it feels like some taboo or shameful secret people have to hide. And the sources also emphasize the critical role of education, taking the initiative to learn accurate information about mental health conditions and actively challenging misinformation whenever we encounter it, whether that's online, in conversations, or, in the media.
This raises an important point for you to consider. How informed do you truly feel about mental health? Are there any lingering preconceived notions or stereotypes that you might unknowingly hold?
That's a good self-reflection point.
It is. Taking the time to educate yourself is a really powerful way to not only dismantle your own internal biases, but also to equip yourself to effectively challenge stigma when you see or hear it in the world around you.
And it's not just about understanding the conditions themselves, right?
Right.
But also about the specific language we use when talking about mental health. The sources provide a really helpful contrast.
Yeah, they do.
Highlighting the significant impact of supportive and empathetic language versus dismissive or judgmental phrases. Instead of saying something like, just get over it, offering a simple, I'm here for you, or that sounds really tough.
Yeah.
It can make a profound difference in how someone feels and whether they feel safe opening up.
What's so powerful about empathetic communication is its ability to validate someone's lived experience. When you choose supportive language, you're creating a safe and non-judgmental space for them to share their struggles rather than minimizing their pain or making them feel like their experiences are invalid or, worse, their fault.
Yeah, validation is huge.
It really is.
The sources also underscore the crucial role we can all play in actively encouraging help-seeking behavior. If we notice someone in our lives who seems to be struggling, reaching out with support, and maybe gently guiding them towards available professional help, that can be an absolute lifeline.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be pushy, just supportive.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture where seeking help is seen as an act of strength and self-care, rather than a sign of weakness, shifting that narrative.
And if we connect this to the broader idea of community support, you can really see how creating an environment where seeking help for mental health is normalized and encouraged, much like seeking help for a physical ailment, can have a truly transformative impact on people's lives.
Finally, the sources touch upon the incredible power of leading by example. Sharing your own experiences with mental health challenges, if you feel comfortable and safe doing so, of course.
That's key.
It can be incredibly inspiring to others and can help those who are struggling feel significantly less alone in their own journeys. It humanizes the experience and breaks down those walls of silence we talked about.
And this brings up an important point about vulnerability. It takes real courage to share personal stories, especially when it comes to something as historically stigmatized as mental health.
It really does.
But when individuals do choose to share their experiences, it can be an incredibly powerful catalyst for change, fostering empathy and understanding on a much wider scale. It connects people.
Yeah. And the sources conclude this section with a really vital message. Breaking down mental health stigma is a gradual process. It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
But every single conversation we have, no matter how small it might seem in the moment, contributes to building a more supportive and understanding world for everyone.
And that's a key takeaway for you listening. Don't feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the issue. Every time you choose to speak openly, every time you challenge a negative stereotype, and every time you offer a listening ear or a word of support, you are actively contributing to positive change, little by little.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, let's return to that fundamental message highlighted in the source material. Mental health is health. Full stop. There is absolutely no shame in experiencing mental health challenges, and there is certainly no shame whatsoever in reaching out for support when you need it.
And if we consider this in the context of your own well-being, please remember that prioritizing your mental health is just as essential as taking care of your physical body. Both are integral components of your overall quality of life and deserve your attention and care. Don't neglect one for the other.
Yeah, definitely. The sources encourage us to continue actively breaking down stigma through ongoing conversations, and that's a call to action for all of us listening. Consider sharing this deep dive with someone in your life who might find it helpful or thought-provoking. Let us know your feedback, what aspects resonated most with you, and perhaps, most importantly, please make a conscious effort to prioritize your own mental well-being alongside your physical health. They're connected.
Absolutely. Which leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. What is one small, concrete action that you can take today, or maybe this week, to be just a little bit more open or more supportive when it comes to mental health? This could be as simple as taking a moment to reflect on your own attitudes and the language you use, like we discussed. Or perhaps reaching out to a friend you've been meaning to check in with. Even the smallest steps can contribute to a more understanding and supportive world.
A great place to end. Small steps, big impact. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.